The decline in the number of school-age children in the North Country is absolutely jaw-dropping. For example, 3 out of 4 students in Newcomb in 1980, gone today. 2 out of 3 students in Clifton Fine and Long Lake, gone. 1 of every 2 students in Lake George, gone. The implications are wide-reaching, and they start with the sheer ability to keep schools open. Saranac Lake is closing one of its 2 elementary schools because there just aren't enough kids. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from the Wild Center in Tupper Lake, dedicated to strengthening visitors' connections to the natural world. More at wildcenter.org.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Monday, March 2nd. First up, a man from St. Lawrence County has been charged with second-degree murder in the death of his father. According to state police, 40-year-old Hans Knickerbocker from the town of Herman allegedly hit and strangled his father during a fight last week. 63-year-old Philip Knickerbocker was found dead inside a home in the town of Russell last Wednesday. An autopsy confirmed that he died due to strangulation. After the autopsy, his son was charged with second-degree murder. He's being held at the St. Lawrence County Jail without bail. State lawmakers are advancing a package of immigration bills with new urgency after a blind refugee detained by federal agents was found dead last week in Buffalo. Jimmy Vielkind reports for the New York Public News Network.
Democratic legislators say they're horrified by the death of Nurul Amin Shah Alam, a Rohingya man who was released from the Erie County Jail to Border Patrol agents. Border Patrol then dropped Shah Alam at a closed coffee shop. Andrew Gennardis is a state senator from Brooklyn. He says the state should pass a law prohibiting coordination with federal immigration authorities.
We can stop the collusion, stop the coordination, and stop the complicity. Because right now there's blood on the hands of everyone who participated in this individual's detainment.
Governor Hochul says Shah Alam's death requires, quote, real accountability. Top lawmakers say they are negotiating a legislative response. In Albany, I'm Jimmy Vielkind for the New York Public News Network.
North Country highway and road officials are pushing back against a bill that would regulate salt usage. It would impose a 300-pound per mile limit on road salt. Amy Feiereisel reports.
The bill limiting salt usage was proposed by William Magnarelli, a Syracuse Democrat who chairs the State Assembly Committee on Transportation. As the Adirondack Explorer reports, it runs counter to a Senate bill backed by Adirondack advocates that would set up a state council and advisory board to help expand salt reduction efforts statewide. The Senate bill would not impose specific salt limits. Kevin Hajos is Warren County Superintendent of Public Works. He's been a statewide leader in reducing salt usage on roads, but says he's against any legislative effort to limit it.
To require, you can't put more than this amount of salt down, which to me doesn't make sense. It's all dependent upon the storm that you have. So to set some limit, I don't know that that's necessarily the thing that we should be doing.
At a water quality conference at Paul Smith's College in early February, other local highway superintendents also spoke out against the salt use limit legislation. They argued it was too prescriptive, could actually lead to a more lax usage of salt, and doesn't address the frequency of salting. The legislation also has a sister bill that would require state and local governments to build storage sheds for all uncovered road salt piles in the next decade. Amy Feiereisel, North Country Public Radio.
A school just north of Saranac Lake is closing due to declining enrollment. The decision to shutter Bloomingdale Elementary was described as profound and painful by one board member who voted in favor of its closure. Aaron Marbone has been covering the issue for the Adirondack Daily Enterprise and spoke with Emily Russell about the vote.
The Saranac Lake School District has had an enrollment decline similar to many other districts around the area. It's been very severe. In the last 30 years, they have lost half of their student enrollment population. Meanwhile, the costs of running a school keep rising with state regulations and inflation and the prices of everything going up.
So there was a contingent of people who were pushing to keep Bloomingdale Elementary open. What was their argument?
Their argument was that the decision might have been premature. They feel that there are several housing projects and opportunities that have been worked on for several years that have not quite come to fruition yet, that they believe can bring more students into the district and that there would be enough to keep Bloomingdale open.
So there were several meetings leading up to last Wednesday's final meeting. You were at that meeting last Wednesday. What was the mood like ahead of the vote, and what were some of the final pleas that people were making?
The mood at the meeting was very somber. Several people cried after the vote. There was a bit of heavy silence before the board moved on to the rest of its agenda. And then afterward, people were hugging in the hallways and in the parking lot. It was described as a profoundly painful decision. Most people were saying they wanted the board to delay the vote. They felt that the subcommittee that was set up to study this reconfiguration was originally set to finish its meetings in June. Because of this March 1st deadline to report reconfigurations to the state education department, they moved up the vote and the public hearings and cut that committee's meetings short. So they felt that they had not had proper time to investigate other alternatives and other possibilities. So they were asking for at least another year before the vote.
So it was ultimately a unanimous vote to close Bloomingdale Elementary. Why do you think it was unanimous?
All the board members said that they did not want to do this. And several of them had said that they ran for the board, at least in part, in hopes of being able to save the school. In the end, none of them felt that it was the right thing for the entire district to keep the school open because of the declining enrollment and the expensive prices of keeping a school building open.
So what happens next? I gather that this goes into effect for the next school year.
Yes, this will be the last year for students at Bloomingdale School. After classes end, they're going to close that building. When they come back in the fall, all the students who were going there or would have been going there will be going down the road to Petrova Elementary and Saranac Lake. And the 7th and 8th graders from Petrova will move over to the high school building.
So we've seen this happen in other communities around the North Country where schools close in one community and then those students get bused into another community. And it does have a ripple effect, or at least it appears to, on those communities that lost a school. What sense do you get about locals who live in Bloomingdale about the future of that community?
For the people who were talking at the meetings, they felt that the core of the community, its foundation, is at the school. Bloomingdale's trying to position itself as sort of the suburbs of Saranac Lake, where the village is the business hub, and then Bloomingdale is a residential primary area where they're trying to attract more families. I think for the town leaders, it's probably a hiccup in those plans. But there was also talk about hoping that they can maintain that community. At the same time, they feel like a large part of what kept that community together will be taken away.
That was Aaron Marbone from the Adirondack Daily Enterprise speaking with our Adirondack reporter Emily Russell. You can find a link to Marbone's reporting on the closure of Bloomingdale Elementary on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Tim Ellifritz of Johnsburg and Oscar Sarmiento of Potsdam. I'm David Sommerstein, North Country Public Radio.